This story will begin with a legendary former hitman named John Wick. He has retired from that dark world and decided to spend his life with the woman he loved so much. However, fate said otherwise. The wife contracted a serious illness and eventually passed away. The departure of his beloved wife forced John back into painful solitude. In the midst of deep grief, while at the funeral, John was visited by a man named Marcus. Marcus is an assassin who is still actively practicing his profession. The loss of his wife, who was not only loved, but also calmed his heart, put John in danger of falling back into the world of violence he had left behind. Before he died, John's wife had taken the time to buy a dog to comfort John after he was gone. The dog was sent by package courier, along with a letter stating that the wife had found peace free from pain, and hoped that John could also find peace similar to the dog's presence. John is determined to look after and care for the dog as a reminder of the love from his wife, and is committed to supporting him until the dog grows up. One day, John decided to take out his car to refuel. There, he meets an arrogant rich young man named Losif. Losif is interested in John's car and asks for the price, but John is not interested in selling it. To release stress, John doesn't spend time playing games or watching YouTube. Instead, he channels adrenaline by driving his car on the runway at high speed. One night, when John was asleep, he woke up to hear a noise from downstairs. He rushed down to investigate, along with his dog. What followed was a very tough test for John. Losif, the young man he met at the gas station, had recklessly broken into John's house, beat John, killed his dog, and stole John's beloved car. In the morning, with a heavy heart, John found the dog that was his only friend and memory of his wife, lying lifeless. After the departure of his wife and realizing that peace does not seem to be part of his destiny, John Wick decides to return to his profession as a hitman. The scene switches to a young man named Losif who arrives at Aurelio's workshop. Aurelio is a mechanic who works for Losif's father, Vigo. Losif came with the intention of asking Aurelio to replace the license plates and vehicle documents of the stolen car. However, Aurelio is shocked to realize that the car belongs to John Wick, a man whose name alone is enough to cause fear. In frustration at Losif's stupidity, Aurelio slapped Losif in the face and declared that even his own father would realize how stupid Losif was. Not long after Losif and his friends left, John Wick showed up at the workshop looking for information. Aurelio, wanting nothing to do with John Wick, tells him everything honestly. After John leaves, Aurelio gets a call from Vigo, who is a businessman and also a mobster with abundant resources. Vigo asks why Aurelio slapped Losif. Aurelio explains that Losif has dealt with John Wick, someone he should have avoided getting into trouble with. Vigo became very worried, knowing how much influence and how dangerous John Wick was, to the point that it frightened him. When Losif returned with a cheerful face and was given liquor by his father, Vigo immediately hit Losif in the stomach until he vomited. Losif asked what he had done wrong, and with Russian translated into Indian language, Vigo explained that Losif was unaware of whose car he had stolen. Vigo shared that John Wick was a diligent, determined, and very committed man.
Oh. Commitment.
John Wick once worked for Viggo and managed to complete an impossible mission. Even Viggo once witnessed how John killed 3 people using only a pencil. John Wick is known to have killed one of the greatest hitmen in the world, so he earned the nickname Boogeyman or Babayaga. Babayaga is a mythical character from Slavic folklore, known in America as the Boogeyman, a criminal who can kill his prey silently. From this whole story and affirmation, we can conclude that John Wick is the best killer of the best. Fearing for Losif's safety, Viggo tries to negotiate with John Wick, but John is silent, which means he will definitely hunt Losif. Viggo asks his aide to mobilize the entire army and is tasked with killing John Wick before he starts moving. On the other hand, John himself was seen preparing to be ready. At that moment, we see a tattoo that reads Fortis Fortuna Adiuvet, which means luck favors the brave. John, who is experienced in the criminal underworld, naturally already knows that Viggo will send troops to his home. Preparing for battle, John turned off the lights of his house and waited for their arrival. Shortly after they entered the house,
Babayaga.
John immediately attacked with his trademarks. Gunfire at close range and hand-to-hand combat, so that all troops died easily. Local police who got reports of the commotion arrived and found many bodies lying in John's house.
You, working again?
No, just sorting some stuff out.
I'll leave you be then. Good night, John.
Good night, Jimmy.
In fact, the local police and certain people already knew John's reputation as a hitman and chose not to interfere in his affairs. Next, John called a cleaning team in charge of cleaning up the scene. They immediately cleaned up all evidence, including the bodies of the victims, and paid with gold coins that only apply in such criminal circles. Viggo, realizing that ordinary troops are not enough to kill John Wick, decides to hold a contest with a reward of $2 million for whoever can kill him. Viggo himself goes to the residence of Marcus, an old friend of John Wick, and asks him to kill John. John Wick himself decided to live in a building that functioned like a hotel, called the Continental. The Continental is a criminal organization that shelters professional hitmen. Here, they are free to do various activities, such as discussing work, staying overnight, and interacting with fellow hitmen. However, there is one important rule. It is strictly forbidden to commit murder within the Continental's premises, as violations will be strictly sanctioned. The leader of the Continental is a man named Winston, who is not the supreme leader of the criminal underworld, as there is a higher organization called the High Table, which consists of elite members who control the hitmen and criminal underworld on the planet. This will be revealed further in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. After getting permission and access to return to work, John Wick immediately prepared himself for the next mission. Elsewhere, Losif, unaware of the dangers lurking in him, is seen partying with several women. The venue is guarded by many bodyguards, but for John Wick, it is not a big problem.
You're on business, sir. Afraid so, Francis. Why don't you take the night off?
The bodyguard soon realized that he was facing John Wick and chose to leave the place instead of fighting. He already knew John Wick's extraordinary ability and considered it impossible for him to survive the fight. Using a fighting style called Kung Fu, which is a combination of taijutsu, judo, and shooting techniques, John Wick easily knocked out Losif bodyguards one by one. Losif managed to escape through the crowd of partying people, while John was still confronted by the other bodyguards. The fight caused John to fall from upstairs. However, in a surprising way, he was still able to recover and get back on his feet quickly. Back at the Continental Hotel, John asked the receptionist to call a doctor to his room to treat his injuries. The receptionist, who was also Winston's confidant, seemed not surprised to see John's condition, who was injured because he had been in the criminal world for a long time. After his injuries were treated, John decided to rest. However, unbeknownst to him, Marcus was already watching him from a distance with the intention to kill him. Suddenly, someone comes in and Marcus immediately wakes John, so that he is not killed and the reward for the murder is not taken by other assassins. The woman was a hitman named Perkins, who was offered double the reward for killing John Wick inside the Continental Hotel. In fact, everyone knows that the murder inside the hotel will get very severe sanctions. But unfortunately, Parkins turned out to be no match for John Wick and was eventually forced to suffer a humiliating defeat. In critical condition, Parkins was questioned by John about the whereabouts of Losif.
There's a church near Cannon Court.
What about it?
It's the front. It's where Vigo keeps his private stash.
Thank you.
And after getting the information needed, John beat Parkins unconscious. Seeing this situation, Marcus decided to go home and now sided with John Wick. Not long after, another murderer named Harry appeared, who happened to be staying in the next room. John offered a gold coin as a reward if he would look after Parkins until the hotel management came to handle it. John then goes to a place under the guise of a church, where Vigo keeps all his wealth. There, John kills all of Vigo men and burns down all his possessions.
Motherfucker! Let's go to the vault.
Meanwhile, the handcuffed Perkins managed to escape from the place and killed Harry. After destroying Vigo possessions, John goes to Vigo to find out Losif whereabouts. Their meeting ends in a shootout that leaves John injured after being hit by a car. John, tied to a chair, the two of them engaged in conversation. Vigo can't understand why John returned to the criminal underworld, just because of a dog and a car. But full of anger, John explained that the dog was the last gift from his dead wife.
Stole that from me. Killed that from me. I'm taking on back. So you can either hand over your son,
Suddenly, Marcus shoots one of Vigo men, with the intention of saving John. After escaping, John immediately chased Vigo and managed to finish off all his men. John didn't kill Vigo right away, but instead gave him a chance to tell him where Losif was. Losif himself hides in an abandoned building, guarded by several troops who fail to make him feel safe. Vigo seems agitated as he is forced to risk his son's life for his own safety. It didn't take long. John sneaked into the place where Losif was hiding under the name Babayaga, killed one by one his bodyguards, and finally took revenge for the death of his dog. After the incident, John returned to Continental to check out and was given a new car as compensation for the damage done last night. He also visits Marcus to thank him, even though Marcus has no intention of saving him. However, their meeting was discovered by Parkins, who reported it to Vigo. Vigo then ordered his men to capture Marcus and torture him for daring to betray. Although Marcus had resisted, but because Vigo's men were too many, so Marcus finally died. Then, Vigo contacted John about he had just killed Marcus with the intention of provoking and avenging the death of his son, and finally John turned around to see the condition of Marcus. Parkins, who tried to escape, was intercepted by Winston and Continental troops, who said that his membership had been revoked for trying to commit murder at the hotel. Then they immediately shot Parkins. Winston then called John that on a helicopter pad that was refueling. John immediately understood what Marcus said. With the information from Winston, John chased the Vigo car that was trying to escape. After a fierce chase, Vigo stood on the bridge and challenged John to a hand-to-hand fight. The two fought under the rain, and although Vigo managed to injure John, in the end John managed to retaliate and end Vigo's life. John was injured and went to a nearby pet store to seek help. Where he found a caged black dog. John decides to take the dog home as a replacement for the dead dog, in the hope that the dog can grow independently.